Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. For those new to the channel, my name is Sean, also known as Film Guru, and I started this channel having my particular say on movies and a variety of film content. So thanks for joining me today. So I'm continuing on doing more reviews once again. Today I'm reviewing Boogeyman. This was directed by Rob Savage. The film stars Vivian Lyra Blair, Sophia Thatcher, and Chris Messina. The film focuses on high school student Sadie Harper and her younger sister Sawyer, who are still reeling after the death of their mother. Their father, who isn't offering a lot of support, Will, who's a therapist, is dealing with his own pain. When an unexpected patient arrives at the house seeking help from Will, he leaves behind a terrifying supernatural entity that preys on families and feeds on the suffering of its victims. It's up to the Harper family to stop this entity from taking over their lives. Look, as horror movies go, this was solid. I thought that the characters were interesting enough. I don't think they were as strong as they could be. The characters you're meant to care for this family, but I just didn't feel connected to them. I know they tried really hard to do that, but I just never felt the connection between Sadie and her mother, and also her younger sister Sawyer. Like, that character doesn't even mention the mother, or doesn't even talk about the mother in any way, and you don't feel that struggle she's had. And obviously the father does struggle with that as well, and Sadie and Will sort of go at each other because they're very similar, but they're not dealing with the issues that they're struggling with. I've always liked the idea of the Boogeyman. They've tried many times to make a film of this particular, myth around this sort of horror character, and they never quite got it right. There was one they did in the early 2000s, which was okay, but the previous one they did was really, really bad, The Bye-Bye Man, which is pretty much the same thing, and it was terrible. This got all the horror elements right, I thought. I liked the creature design. I liked the fact that they kept the creature in shadows. We didn't get quite a good look at this creature. I thought that was really clever. That was my main worry after seeing the trailer, is that the creature would look crappy. And yes, there are a couple of scenes where it doesn't look great, but overall, it's sort of really cleverly done practically, and the fact it's kept in the shadows makes it much more intimidating and scary in a way, and I like that. I like the look of the film. I like the sort of progression. I like that we learn a little bit about the Boogeyman, but we don't learn enough about him. In these sort of films, you do have a character that's been through it, so they tell the new character what they've experienced, but there's also research done by the characters where they learn a lot more. The idea is there should be a myth around this character, and there was a little bit, but not enough in this film. It was just touched upon. I felt they could have had a whole scene with someone in a bookstore or whatever, and I know that's a little cliche, but I just feel by doing that, it sort of gives you much more of a myth involving the character than we got. It manages to do great sort of suspenseful horror moments, and yeah, there are jump scares in it, but they combine really well. The use of darkness and voices, and the fact that this Boogeyman can mimic characters' voices, is really great. The use of light, especially when we get to Sawyer, where she has this little moon light that she sleeps with because she's scared of the dark. And the way that she uses it to roll around the room or in the house in particular dark moments to see if anything's there. I really loved that. I thought that was a great use of light and darkness. And it sort of represented the film in a lot of ways. There is a little bit of light, but it's mostly covered in darkness, in the darkness of this character, the darkness of the struggles the family are going through, the loss of the mother of the family. So it sort of works well with what the film's going for. And in a lot of ways, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Babadook, in just how this creature appears, why the main characters are in some sort of pain or turmoil. It felt a lot like that. And it also had vibes of Smile. Not as good as Smile in my opinion, but just the overall creepiness and the way they use suspense in the film is very similar. And the fact that these characters up against something they don't quite understand. This creature that wants something from them. I like the use of music. I like the scenes where they didn't have music, but there was this sort of unsettling feeling all the way through. I like that. I think they captured that sort of horror quite well. But like I said, it's the family element that lets the film down. Sadie's an interesting enough character, but we don't have enough for her. She doesn't let us in to really feel for her or experience the things she experiences. So we don't feel as connected to her character as we should. And the Will character is very guarded. There are a couple of moments where you sort of see things with him, but he never really comes across as a likable character. The only character I think who's kind of the most likable is Sawyer, because she's this young girl who's scared of the dark. They're trying to convince her that there's nothing there, it's only in her head. But then when there actually is something there, they don't believe her, and she's really trying to make sense of what's happening. I really loved her character. I felt connected enough to her. Even though she didn't show or express her sadness, the loss of her mother, it was just the way she was in that situation that I kind of found her the most interesting. There are other characters that this thing has affected, and we see a little bit at the start, and we're introduced to both of them in the film. And they're kind of odd, especially the wife, and when Sadie goes to the house to see where this thing came from, and we're introduced to her. She's kind of a little weird and wacky and crazy, but she seems so military minded, like she was a soldier. It's kind of weird, her character in that regard. She doesn't really serve a huge amount of purpose. She's just kind of there to explain certain things to the Sadie character so we get a sense of what's happening. I think the way it leads to things is a little silly. There's other characters in the film, especially her so-called friends from high school. One of them's a really nasty character that just serves the point of just causing the Sadie character pain and frustration and sadness. And there's things that happen to her because of this character that I just found was dumb. It relied a little too much on cliches, and also relied on the idea of the boogeyman without actually delving into their version of that character. The ending, they end it in a way that feels like, oh, if we wanted to do a sequel, we could. And it all hinges on the journey these characters have gone through, not just because of the boogeyman, but because of the death of the mother figure in the family. They come to terms with things a little bit, but it just felt like we weren't connected enough. There wasn't, their journey and story wasn't strong enough to carry us all the way through for us to care in that end moment. But like I said, overall solid. Final thoughts. In the end, it's a film about grief and pain and darkness, and that how sometimes darkness can latch onto us or be something hiding in the dark, ready to pounce on us and ready to make us suffer more than we are. And there's also this idea of fear around expressing ourselves, fear around the darkness, just a variety of, it really looks at the variety of fears and how that overtakes people's lives, and how sometimes you have to rise above that in order to protect the people you love. I'm going to give Boogeyman 3.5. It's a solid film. If you like horror, you might enjoy it. It isn't the greatest film, but I did enjoy my experiences with it due to the way the horror elements were handled. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe down the bottom. Follow me on Facebook and Letterboxd. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.